again, I would have phrased it differently. Sure, we can have that argument.
He was reading from prepared remarks.
But to make the case that he doesn't care that soldiers lost their lives, I find that hard as hell to believe.
I did not.
So I don't think that this is someone who doesn't recognize the importance of war, the toll it takes on families, and that you might indeed pay the ultimate price. And so I think we shouldn't forget that. We may dislike him, you may not like the comment that he made, and we could critique maybe it wasn't the right way to word it.
I mean, you know what I think is tragic? That Pete Hegseth refers to the death of 6 Americans as tragic things happen, almost flippantly. And I think the bellicose and braggadocious narrative and rhetoric you're hearing from him, that's what happens when you pick an unqualified weekend Fox News host to be Secretary of Defense.
So in this clip, we're going to see Anna Navarro check Shermichael Singleton for the way that it is that Pete Hegseth is going about and talking about the ongoing war that's taking place between the United States, Israel, and Iran. As usual, let's watch the clip in full. I'm going to give a bit of my perspective halfway through, but I'm going to save it majority towards the end. Let's get into it.
Good evening. I'm Abby Phillip in New York. The war is expanding, and so is the Trump administration's rhetoric. Tonight, as the U.S. escalates its fight against Iran, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is setting the tone. He held a briefing today to give an update on the conflict, but that quickly spiraled into tough talking, stick swinging, bombastic messages that seemed catered to his boss. And it was apparent from the start. Here is Hegseth's opening remarks, and compare that to that of his top military officer.
I stand before you today with one unmistakable message about Operation Epic Fury. America is winning, decisively, devastatingly, and without mercy.
I'm here today to provide the American people and those of you in this room an update on Operation Epic Fury. First, it's with profound sadness and gratitude that I share the names of 4 of our 6 fallen heroes, all from the 103rd Sustainment Command.
The contrast is incredibly striking. While his generals sought to memorialize the fallen soldiers, Hegseth saw the tragedy as an opportunity to blast the media.
This is what the fake news misses. We've taken control of Iran's airspace and waterways without boots on the ground. We control their fate. But when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad, but try for once to report the reality.
The Pentagon chief's rough rhetoric didn't stop there.
They are toast, and they know it. We have only just begun to hunt, dismantle, demoralize, destroy, and defeat their capabilities. We will fly all day, all night, day and night, finding, fixing, and finishing the missiles every minute of every day until we decide it's over. Death and destruction from the sky all day long. We are punching them while they're down. We are accelerating, not decelerating. American strength grows fiercer, smarter, and utterly dominant. They are terrorists. We will find them, and we will kill them.
Speak softly and carry a big stick no longer, Brett. First of all, welcome to the show. But what do you make of Pete Hegseth's rhetoric? And I mean, I've seen a lot of generals talk about armed conflict, and they're usually incredibly measured about it because they know the balance of life and death that's happening there. The Secretary of Defense didn't do that.
Well, we've had 2 briefings from generals in the last 24 hours. We had Brad Cooper, the CENTCOM commander, I know very well. He put out a statement last night and actually a kind of a briefing to the American people of the military operation. I thought that was very effective. I thought General Kane's briefing today, again, very effective about the military objectives. Obviously, I don't think I would speak the way the Secretary did, but I think looking at what the military commanders are saying about this operation, I actually think is quite instructive. We do have military objectives. They're carrying them out. But again, I think there's always the importance of the connection between the civilian leadership and the military command is one of the most important things if you're measuring the ultimate successfulness of a military operation. And what worries me here is you have the military command, I think, being very focused on military operations. And what we're hearing from the civilian leadership, including the president, is kind of, we hear shifting things all the time. And that can be very dangerous. There's history here. You study history. When President Truman met General MacArthur on Wake Island, they thought they had a meeting of the minds and actually didn't. And MacArthur went all the way north to the Chinese border, brought the Chinese into the war. We had 30,000 American casualties. A lot of history here. The importance of the civilian leadership being in a meld with the military leadership of what we're trying to achieve.
It's an interesting point. I mean, it does seem like the political leadership of the country, Pete Hegseth, the president, to Brett's point, they are all over the place in terms of what they're saying about this conflict. And I think the biggest question that we're all facing is that a sign of something that is unsettled, undecided beneath the surface, or is it just a lack of discipline?
Well, it's not just about this conflict. They've shown this behavior on a number of other issues, domestic as well as international. So you have to say that it is systemic, and it is a sign of a problem that runs deeper than just the messaging on this conflict. The messaging has been all over the place. Messaging was all over the place over Greenland. The messaging, on a lot of foreign policy issues, different people in the administration give different explanations for decisions that are made. So if you take that into consideration, then it's hard to say, well, they're deliberately doing this in order to keep the enemy guessing. I've heard that explanation used, that this is all part of a sort of deliberate strategy. You don't want the Iranians to know exactly what's coming next, and that's why you offer different messages. That would make sense if there was message discipline in other areas, and this was the one area where they were doing this. Here there's a pattern, and the pattern is very clear. Different parts of the administration simply don't seem to be reading from the same page.
And maybe it all comes down to Trump's gut. Let's play what Caroline Levitt said about why the president made the decision to go to war.
President Trump does not make these decisions in a vacuum. The president had a feeling, again, based on fact, that Iran was going to strike the United States, was going to strike our assets in the region, and he made a determination to launch Operation Epic Fury based on all of those reasons.
I do think, I have to add, Bobby, I think that I do believe there is an element of deliberately trying to obfuscate and trying to, because Trump and the government is aware that adversaries listen to what we say in the U.S. government. They know that they listen very clearly, and that then they view whatever we say as predicting the next move or setting a certain red line. And I think that it doesn't work that well for democracies where we have freedom of the press and where we have a public that deserves to know. At the same time, while I do know that kind of communication works for an adversary, I do think it's important for Americans to understand why the U.S. whether it's this war or any war, why the U.S. goes to war, because you need them to understand that you don't want things to divide further. You need them to understand national security threats. You need them to understand the threats posed by a regime. And while you may not want to go out there and say, this is going to be the next move and this is exactly what we're doing next, you see now a cadre of political officials and many people across the nation even having banter that almost comes off as though it's pro-regime sometimes, as though they feel the regime is the victim. And this is a real risk for our national security in general. So I do believe there is a benefit to having mixed communications when it comes to an adversary listening. But as somebody for my own media brand where I like to educate Americans, I do think it's important to communicate to Americans broadly.
I just want to say really, really quick, honestly, I just think the way that it is that this administration are handling this war, I think it should literally send sirens ringing in everybody's head, because it's just, it doesn't make sense. Now, hearing the point that it is that she just said, basically trying to insinuate that they might be doing it just to try and basically to confuse Iran and confuse the enemy. I mean, that doesn't really make too much sense in my personal opinion. And the reason why it doesn't make too much sense is because in doing that, all Donald Trump is doing, given what it is that him and his administration ran on and what his base believe, he's just sending his base more and more towards Democrats and to the left. So why would it make sense for them to be trying to utilize that as a strategy for why it is that they went to war with Iran. It just doesn't add up for me.
Caroline Levitt says that he has a feeling based on fact. Should the American people be privy to what facts underlie that feeling?
Sure, you have to make your case, but I also remember during the Obama administration, during Libya, the administration did not feel the need to get permission, if you want to put it that way, from Congress for those strikes. I think they actually put a 32-page document together listing all the legal reasons why the president wasn't mandated by the Constitution for those military airstrikes, and we had hundreds of them, maybe even thousands by some accounts. That said, the way I look at this, for 47 years, Iran has been the #1 state sponsor of terror. The United States of America, we have interest in that part of the world. Number two, China is our greatest adversary. They're only getting stronger. They're putting a lot of money, beefing up their military technology, specifically hypersonics. They import about 13 to 14% of all crude oil from Iran, 1.38 million barrels pumped per day, 80% out of Iran going to China. And so if you want to make the case, strategically speaking, why this matters, one, we have interest in the region. Two, we want to make sure that China does not usurp the United States of America in terms of global dominance. That, to me, is a very solid argument about why we need to remove the regime.
I don't think anybody's debating that. I think the question is whether or not that argument could not have been taken to the American people, because as you point out, all of those things have been true for a very long time. So there's nothing about this moment, at least that we know of, that would say, okay, it has to be tomorrow, when in fact we know that Iran has been a menace for 47 years.
And
why not go to the American
people? It's incredible to me that we are, what, 4, 5 days into this now, and there still hasn't been a formal address to the nation by the President of the United States. Look, I think Donald Trump, and to a certain extent Hegseth as well, I think their psyche changed as a result of Venezuela. They are emboldened. Donald Trump realized he's got the biggest, most powerful armed forces in the world, and he intends to use them whenever he wants and however he wants. He didn't have to get permission for Congress to do the Maduro operation, and so now he thinks he can replicate it elsewhere. Obviously, Iran and Venezuela are two completely different balls of wax. We are two completely different regimes with capacities. Venezuela did not have the capacity, Maduro did not have the capacity to inflict pain and war on America. Iran has much greater capacities. I think, and I'm old enough to remember, and so are we around this table, 2003, when George W. Bush stood in a U.S. aircraft carrier and declared mission accomplished. And it was years of more fighting that ensued, and that was very premature. So him beating his chest and talking about all of this feels like not the right thing at the right time, and his focus should be on the loss of life.
Can I just make one point of objection to what Anna just said? You know, in politics, sometimes we make flippant remarks. If we could go back and do it over, we would. Pete Hegseth has served this country honorably, a tour in Afghanistan, a tour in Iraq. I never put on the uniform, but I certainly have a lot of damn respect for the people who do. He led his troops for about a year as a leader. Many of the generals and individuals who gave him a Bronze Star wrote admirably about his leadership position. So I don't think that this is someone who doesn't recognize the importance of war, the toll it takes on families, and that you might indeed pay the ultimate price. And so I think we shouldn't forget that. We may dislike him. You may not like the comment that he made, and we could critique maybe it wasn't the right way to word it.
I mean, she was
but this is someone who knows war more than anybody at this table that I'm familiar with, and we should keep that in mind.
Well, Shermichael, let me remind you that this is the same guy that was on a chat group revealing all sorts of information that should not have revealed in that chat group to all sorts of people that should not have had that information, including a journalist who he didn't even know was on the chat group.
And Anna, I have no quarrels with that at all. My point simply is, this guy understands what happens when you go to war. He's been to war. He's seen people die. He's been to combat. And again, I would have phrased it differently. Sure, we can have that argument.
He was reading from prepared remarks.
But to make the case that he doesn't care that soldiers lost their lives, I find that hard as hell to believe.
I did not say he didn't care. I said that the way he phrased it, as tragic things happened, was a very unfortunate way to discuss the loss
unfortunate. I'll
of
take
6
that.
lives.
I'll take
I don't
unfortunate.
think, I don't know that this was a critique of his service. It was actually a critique of what he, in fact, said and how he placed the deaths of those service members in the context of President Trump and whether or not he's being treated fairly or unfairly by the press. It just was out of left field for most people who heard those remarks. But next for us, we have more ahead. The CIA.
I mean, honestly, his frustration and his anger there towards the end made absolutely no sense, because Anna Navarro wasn't criticizing his service to the country. She was simply criticizing the way in which, the manner in which he was speaking about the fallen soldiers. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Given the fact that he served, like you said, he led soldiers himself, surely then if he understands what it means to pay the ultimate sacrifice for your country, when speaking about it, maybe you should try and convey that across to the people you're speaking to. The manner in which he's speaking about the war, about the dead, everybody, I'm on social media and I'm literally seeing so many people are questioning the way that he's conducting himself and he's speaking about it. I'm glad Anna Navarro didn't let up and didn't back down. I'm glad she didn't, and I'm also glad Abby Phillip also came in and checked Shermichael as well, because what's he talking about? What's he even going on about? That was just an example of these guys, once again, just trying to take something, trying to clutch their pearls and trying to make into something that is absolutely is not. It's just another example of it. But there's no shock and there's no surprise. This is what it is that MAGA do. This is how it is that they handle things. But they are so quick to always call people on the left so many different names, clutching at pearls. Oh, you're soft, this, that, the other. Ridiculous stuff. I'm glad Anna Navarro didn't back down. But ultimately, what I'll say in regards to this segment is this. I do believe that Americans should really be concerned. The fact that it is that this administration, they can't seem to stick to one reason, valid, justified reason as to why this war is taking place. They can't do it. All of them are saying multiple different things. And then when you actually take a look and depending upon how deep you want to research and get into this, you can actually see that it's not making too much sense as it stands currently. And when you take a look at what's going on in the United States, affordability, the economy, and you take a look at all of these sort of things, the last thing that it is that America needs right now is another war. And I can actually have a say in this now, because it looks like our Prime Minister has done a little bit of a U-turn as well. And he's going to be looking for us to be getting involved with this war as well. War is not something I'm interested in. We have our own problems here in the United Kingdom, and I want those problems fixed and sorted before we even take a look at anything else. Nevertheless, let me know your guys' thoughts on this exchange in the comment section below. And do me a favor, hit the subscribe button if you're interested in an outsider's point of view on all things to do with American politics. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next clip.